like to ask you all to rise and join us in the presentation of the colors by Mr. Thomas Schwan. Mr. Schwan, please.
Follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll be seeing a little more of Mr. Schwan after he gets this done, a little after get a little further down the agenda. Mr. Gugis, if you would please, Vice President Gugis, the board affirmation statement.
Our mission is to ensure that all students are prepared for college and a successful life, academically, socially, and emotionally, as well as equipped with the necessary tools to have options and make decisions about their long-term goals. This will be accomplished by believing and working towards all students learning through rigorous curricula and meaningful, effective instruction, consequently demonstrating mastery on high-quality assessments with all stakeholders being held accountable throughout the process.
Dr. Mitchum, agenda.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask the board to approve the agenda with the following revisions. Agenda item 13.1, we'd like to move 2 individuals from co-curricular hire category to the classified hire category as discussed in executive session. And I request that the information report 14.5 is introduced before information report 14.4. I then ask that the board approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the revisions to the agenda? Hearing none, seeing none. I vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. Moving down the agenda. Mr. Gazafi, let's talk about money.
Treasurer's Action Report 5.1 for the month of February includes your financial reports, balance sheet, funds, summary of revenue and expenditures, encumbrances, and a recommendation to approve interim obligation payments totaling $3,240,007.09.
So moved.
Motion?
Second.
Motion seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Hanson,
Yes.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Curran,
Yes.
Secretary Bull,
Yes.
Vice President Gugis,
Yes.
President Quigley.
Yes.
Treasurer's Action Report 5.2 includes the schedule of bills for March 2013. You've got 7 funds there representing $2,372,648.28 for your consideration and action.
Motion?
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Hanson,
Yes.
Member Campbell,
Yes.
Member Curran,
Yes.
Secretary Bull,
Yes.
Vice President Gugis,
Yes.
President Quigley.
Yes. Next, Gary, state funding updates. You know my question.
Yes, state funding update represents 2 months of arrears in terms of what we're owed from the state. Total there on the report, $4,470,000. This money should have been received in December of 2012. I don't anticipate receiving any additional state funding at the very earliest April.
So that number's only going to get large at the 4.7
Come March, yes, we'll be 2 quarters in arrears. We'll probably receive this payment in April. We'll end the year as we have in the last 2 years with a full quarter of about $4.4 million owed.
For those of you who are not aware, the state of Illinois, the governor presented a budget last week that takes $300 additional million away from education. That's $300 million in a cash-strapped education system as it is. Some of that will be from mandated categoricals, which transportation. I expect those cuts to stick. Remember, the governor's budget is a jumping off point. It is not necessarily what will be voted on by the General Assembly. However, the reduction to our district, and I don't know what the numbers at $300 million mean. Gary might, maybe you've looked at that or not, but the reality is we get just over $1,000 per student from the state now. That number will probably take a nosedive somewhere in the neighborhood of $800 per student. So if your General Assembly members or anybody from the state of Illinois tells you the state funds education, they don't. You fund your education in your district. The taxpayers are paying for it. We get very little money from the state now. The state of Illinois, as a general belief, is that they spend $6,500 per student. That is highly incorrect. They may spend $6,500 statewide. They do not spend that kind of money in our district. We get $800 or $1,100, something in that neighborhood currently. If this budget passes as is, we'll be somewhere in the neighborhood of $850 per student per year from the General Revenue Fund for education. So that's a big difference. When I first got on this board and I asked Gary, I said, do we get like, $5,000? And he said, I wish we got half of that. And I didn't realize how low we get from the state. So that's just the way it is. I suspect of that $300 million, they'll find some magic and put some of that back into the budget, and the hit won't be as hard. But on the transportation side and some of the other program sides, I suspect it'll be probably in the neighborhood of $75 to $100 million that is being reduced from education in the state of Illinois. And that pretty much puts us in a state of, I would say, we're at the basement now. Where else are you going to go? So that's my little rant for the night on the state and their budget issues. But they are balancing their problems on the backs of local government. It's not just school districts, it's your municipalities, it's your townships, it's your counties that all share in some of those revenues. And we are where the service hits the road. For municipalities and for schools, the state doesn't provide those services. We do locally. So, and they mandate that we do a whole lot with very little that they give us. Next.
I have a quick question for Mr. Raffi. Speaking of money that's owed, what's the latest on the hospital exemption?
We did have a meeting with hospital officials as well as local elected officials representing the various taxing agencies. The long and short was that it wasn't really a negotiation session, but just a how did we get here, why are we here, stems from the Provena case down in Champaign. 10 years ago, they lost their tax exempt status, and over those 10 years, it's been coming to establishing criteria in order to allow hospitals to re-establish their tax exempt status. Adventist has paid its bills under protest, unbeknownst to us. And long and short of it is they are seeking, not only did they not pay their taxes this year, but seeking a certificate of error to receive a refund of all property taxes paid for the last 3 years. Right now we've got notice for 2 years. We're waiting on the 2008 year. All total, we're just about $4.8 million of a tax refund. And so the parameters of the repayment, we're going to have 3 years to pay that back. At least that's what's on the table currently. I'd like to see that stretched out further just to ease that burden, if you will. They're also waiving the statutorily allowable 0.5% interest rate per month, which would generate 6% annual interest, which is unattainable for all intents and purposes. And so again, some small solace, I guess, in that regard. But at this point, I don't think that bill's going to go away, that burden, and it's gonna impact us pretty heavily.
So that's $4.8 million on top of the 2 they didn't pay for this year?
That 4.8 would be on, no, that would be including their non-payment of the 2011 taxes payable in 12.
Okay.
And we're hoping that they'll extend that to beyond the 3 years, maybe even give us, 5 if we pay some up front, and then roll it off of what would have been owed over the next 2 or 3, 4 years. So.
Most likely, we will take a reduction in our tax distributions rather than actually cutting a check, regardless of which option we elect. We'll have to do it formally through the county.
Why are they allowed to recoup from previous years and not just move forward with the new designation?
That's a great question. I mean, to me, that is the crux of the problem. Is moving forward, we'd be okay with the idea that they're now tax exempt. Going back really leaves us high and dry, so to speak. I believe any property tax payer has the ability to challenge an assessment via the certificate of error process. and so it wouldn't be any different from a residential, commercial, or industrial property. And I'm not sure if it's included in the statute specifically, but I think it's a general ability of a taxpayer to go back up to 3 years to challenge their property assessment.
And that's what was handed down from the courts. So unless we want to challenge the court decision, which would just further cost us more money, because they've already made the decision, they're probably not going to kick that all the way up. It's already gone as high as it could go, correct?
I'm sorry?
That was a appellate court decision or a state Supreme Court decision? I forget which.
I think it's an appellate court
Appellate court
decision.
decision, yeah.
But we're not talking a reduction, we're talking an exemption, correct?
They will be property tax exempt,
Yeah,
correct?
so for
Yeah.
the public, so you understand, the hospital isn't going to pay property taxes, and they want all the money they paid over the last 3 years back.
Right.
So
And
we-
that-
so we can all pay more. That's
And
pretty
the
much what
understanding
happens
is
with
they
that.
do have properties there that will be paying property taxes, just the portion of the hospital that is tax exempt. So that's the good news for tonight. Gary, moving down 5.5, trust accounting.
Right, 5.3, 5.4, and 5.5 are presented for information only. If you've got any questions, I will point out in the summary of investments, if you care to look on the last page, we do have 2 listings on there of TAWs that the district has invested in, or tax anticipation warrants, for the Johnsburg School District. I believe that's generating about 60 basis points of interest, which is rather good in this environment. We're also purchased some general obligation bonds of the Morris School District. We took half of what they were issuing in GO bonds, and so we're starting to look elsewhere for to try to maximize our interest earnings. It's small potatoes in the grand scheme of things, but it just demonstrates that we're doing everything we can to stretch our dollars.
Any other questions, Mr. Grisafi? Consent agenda.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask the board to approve consent agenda items 6.1 through 6.4. 6.1, board meeting minutes for February 25th, 2013. 6.2, executive session meeting minutes, February 25th, 2013. 6.3, gifts for B.J. Ward, Independence, Jonas Salk, Jamie McGee, J.R. Tibbet, Oakview, Pioneer, and Woodview Elementary Schools. And 6.4, trips for Bolingbrook High School.
Motion would be in order.
So moved.
Motion and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Just for you young people out there, when we vote on things and we do a roll call vote, that's because we're voting to spend money. If we do something with an aye vote, we're typically not voting to spend money, just so you guys understand that when you watch parliamentary procedures, when you're watching something on TV or whatever in your local government classes. Moving down the agenda, Mr. Schwan, would you please join me at the front? This is one of the funner things we get to do. This young man has attained the rank of Eagle Scout, and how many do we have from the Bolingbrook area now, Jim?
It's like 185.
Like 185 from the troops that are surrounding our area. I've probably said this before, but whenever somebody is looking at a resume and they see the resume has this young man or any young man has achieved the rank of Eagle Scout, they certainly move their resume to the top of the heap, regardless of where they went to college or what their GPA may be. The fact that they have provided that kind of community service is something that their parents should be proud of, because he didn't do it in a vacuum. I can guarantee that. Are your parents here?
Yeah, my mom's right over there.
Come on over here. Countless nights of driving them back and forth, and so on and so on and so on. So with that in mind, we are here to recognize this. And I've got a proclamation here. That's your copy, and there's a copy for your mother in there. And I'm just going to read what it says right here. Come on up here, guys.
We want to sit here?
Yeah, stand over there so you can get in the TV. Whereas Eagle Scout is the highest rank attained in the Boy Scouts of America, and whereas more than 2 million young men have attained the rank of Eagle Scout since the first Eagle Scout medal was awarded more than 100 years ago, and whereas it takes a true leader to attain the rank of Eagle Scout, and whereas Thomas Schwam has active in scouting for 12 years, serving for 3 years as a volunteer instructor at Cub Scout, camp and an instructor at the Boy Scout camp in Morris for 1 year. And whereas Thomas Schwamm has shown his concern for his community by volunteering his time to assist Humane Haven in a variety of ways, including setting up of booths at Petco and Pet Supplies Plus to collect food, litter, and other pet supplies as part of his Eagle Scout project. And whereas Thomas Schwamm is a Bolingbrook High School graduate who is now attending Western Illinois and was involved in a freshman soccer, chess club, and bowling team while at BHS. And whereas Thomas formally became an Eagle Scout during the ceremony on August 12, 2012. Now, there be it resolved on this day, the 11th of March in the year 2013, that the Valley View School Board of Education, the faculty and staff are extremely proud of Thomas Schwamm and congratulate him on all of his accomplishments in the school district and in the community. We all wish him, this outstanding young man, nothing but the best in his post-secondary education and his future career.
I didn't really have that much of a speech planned out, but I do want to thank the board for taking notice to my Eagle Scout Award, and I thank you for letting me stand here today. I also want to thank my mom who's here. She was that little bite in my butt that made me go out and do everything. So without her, I would have, probably not be here standing here today. I wouldn't be here today if I wasn't for my mom. And I want to thank everyone who's ever helped me. I was born and raised here in Bolingbrook, and I want to thank everyone. This community is awesome. I love it. I love living here. The teachers, students, everyone around here. It's just a nice place to live. Yeah, I had to go to school, so they take me away from here. But thank you so much.
Shake everybody's hand.
Run the lap.
Next, the Pillars of Valley View, starting with Bolingbrook High School. Mr. White. Mr. Curran will be presenting.
Good evening, Board President Quigley, School Board, Dr. Mitchum, senior leadership. It's my pleasure to introduce Arlene Lacking, our department chair head, who will be recognizing our two lovely ladies who are accompanied by their husband for being the pillars of Bolingbrook High School, pillars of Valley View School District from Bolingbrook High School.
Good evening, everyone. Bolingbrook High School would like to recognize Gina Rafalski and Allison Andrasek as pillars of Valley View. Gina and Allison have been working together for the past 6 years through various special education programs. For the past 3 years, Gina and Allison have systematically developed a transition program which provides students with multiple opportunities to research and explore career interests. They work closely with Wilco Career Center and serve as Individualized Education Program, IEP, facilitators to make sure IEP students' needs are met. Allison and Gina coordinate a mentoring experience for junior students each fall, matching local professionals with student career interests. They also set up campus tours of Joliet Junior College. Annually, Allison and Gina partner with the Career and Technical Education Department to coordinate and host the BHS College Trade and Career Fair. Over 50 representatives from colleges, trades, and military branches attend this event to share information with all BHS junior and senior level students. Allison and Gina provide multiple training and support to assist students with IEPs in gaining paid employment. They serve as a linkage between families and the Department of Rehabilitation Services to ensure families have access to post-high school opportunities. Gina has been working at Bolingbrook High School for the past 6 years, but has been in special education for 12 years. She is a mentor to new staff, enjoys coaching the boys' prom team during homecoming, and is the assistant yearbook sponsor. Outside of BHS, Gina and her husband, Chris, of 11 years, have an 8-year-old daughter, Angelina. Gina feels lucky to have such a supportive and loving family and a great partner at BHS. Allison started at BHS in 2004 as a special education English co-teacher, then moved into the supported education program, but for the past 5 years has been instrumental in the development of transition services. Allison is a mentor to new teachers at Bolingbrook High School and at the STEP campus, and is a member of the Anti-Bullying Committee. On the home front, Allison has been married to Mark for 25 years. Allison and Mark have 4 children, Stephen, Paul, Ruth, and Rebecca. The Andrzejczyk family devotes much of their time outside of school to their church high school ministry. Allison credits the success of the transition team to the strong network of support at BHS and throughout Bolingbrook community. Thank you.
They come this way. Next, Ms. Campbell will present Brooks Middle School. And Dr. Woods. Or not.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education, senior leadership, community members. I'm Christina Sylvester, Assistant Principal at Brooks Middle School, and it is my pleasure to introduce to you our nominee for the Pillar of Valley View Award, Ms. Joanne Bria, Special Education and Enhancement Teacher. Epitomizing what it means to be a Pillar of Valley View, Joanne Bria truly believes in her students' capacity to be successful and is willing to do whatever it takes to support their path to academic achievement, including routinely working in the building late into the evening hours. As a special education case manager, an enhancement teacher, and a language arts department member, Ms. Bria wears a variety of hats and handles each of her roles with poise, professionalism, and positivity. She serves as a veteran mentor to any and all incoming teachers, answering questions and providing support, even to those who aren't officially on her list of mentees. Thank you, Joanne, for all that you do for our staff and students. It's a pleasure to work with and to know you. Congratulations. She got it. Yeah, you did. All right. Thank you very much.
Next, Lukancic and Mr. Bull will be presenting.
Good evening, Dr. Mitchum, President Quigley, members of the board, senior leadership, and members of our community. It is an honor to recognize Maggie Luft as a pillar of Valley View. Ms. Luft teaches 6th and 7th grade science at Lukanzik and is truly passionate about her ability to impact students on a daily basis. She goes above and beyond to ensure that she reaches each and every child that enters her room. She believes in all students and challenges them to become critical thinkers. Ms. Luft's level of energy and excitement is contagious in the classroom and throughout the building. She is a team player and is always willing to lend a helping hand. She without a doubt motivates and encourages students to put forth their best effort while delivering engaging lessons. Ms. Luft works collaboratively with her colleagues and is an active member of the district science curriculum team. She has also written formative and summative assessments for the 7th grade curriculum. Additionally, Ms. Luft will be a part of the district team that will be presenting the next science generation standards to all middle school science teachers at our next early release day. All of Ms. Luft's hard work and dedication to our students does not go unnoticed. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Ms. Maggie Luft, a pillar of Valley View.
Woodview Elementary, Vice President Guchis, if you would please.
Her kids are begging to come up here, but she's asked them to sit in their seats.
Bring them up. Bring them up. Come on.
Okay, never mind. We're good.
Come on.
All right. Superintendent Dr. Mitchum, President Quigley, school board, senior leadership, and members of the community. Thank you so much for coming this evening, as I have the honor to recognize Woodview's Elementary School's Pillar of Valley View Excellence Award, Ms. Patty Chow. Mrs. Chow has been a Valley View employee since 2005 and is currently Woodview's Intermediate Reading Specialist. Mrs. Chow exemplifies excellence in all she does. Down to every detail, she goes above and beyond by frequently offering professional development for staff, individualized literacy instruction for her students, and constant communication with parents in our community. Throughout the past 8 years that I have known Ms. Chow, she has served in various capacities within this community and school district. She started out as a language arts and social studies coordinator. Now she is a reading specialist. Within our building, she provides internal interpretation services on a regular basis to bridge that gap between school and home for our bilingual families. She is the chair of our Homeschool Connections Community Outreach Committee, which reaches out to the community, building foundational skills between home and school, honoring activities at the Fountaindale Library, welcoming community members and other members of the district in for Career Day, Guest Reader Day, and other opportunities to share leadership, literature, and expertise with our students. She also provides opportunities within our community through the BOG community outreach program, as well as her Children's Church Education Facility program. Her family is here tonight. Her and her husband Chuck have 3 wonderful children who all attend school at R.C. Hill in our district, and we are so proud to have Ms. Chow as part of our school, our community, and our pillar of Valley View excellence. Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, Oakview Elementary is next.
Good evening, Board of Education, senior leadership, community members, and Dr. Mitchum. My name is Bob Pinsiak. I'm the proud principal of Oakview School, and I am proud to recognize Adelina Rivera this evening. We as a district and school are fortunate and grateful to have this pillar of value. Adelina Rivera has served as an English as second language teacher in Valley View for 7 years and a member of the Oakview family for 2. Addie rises to the occasion as a leader, collaborator, and instructional resource. Her leadership was present throughout the past few months as Oakview created a new vision and mission statement. As well, she takes the lead for a professional development team of colleagues that focuses on instruction. During leadership team meetings, Mrs. Rivera provides meaningful insight into data and pushes the team to think critically. Other staff members reach out to her as a resource because of the instructional strategies she uses with English language learners. To further prove her dedication to her profession, this past year she earned National Board certification through diligent work. Her greatest impact is the success she experiences with her students on a daily basis. We are proud to recognize Adelina as Oakview's Pillar of Valley View.
And now we have the spelling bees. And there's a lot of them this year. Who's got the certificates for the spelling bee? You got them?
I do, yes.
All right.
Can I have all of the spelling bee winners come on up front? Good evening, President Quigley, Vice President Gugis, members of the board, Dr. Mitchum, senior administration, audience, and community. It is my privilege and my pleasure to recognize the following VVSD Spelling Bee winners and Will County qualifiers. Kim Belser from Humphrey Middle School won first place in the VVSD Spelling Bee. As a Will County qualifier, she competed and placed 4th in the County Spelling Bee. Elizabeth Zahorik from Lukanzik Middle School won 2nd place in the VVSD Spelling Bee. She was also a Will County qualifier and competed in the County Spelling Bee, where she placed 5th. Congratulations. John Belser from Humphrey Middle School won 3rd place in the VVSD Spelling Bee. Congratulations, John. Rory Richards from A. Vito Martinez was a Will County qualifier who competed and placed 8th. Congratulations, Rory. Edward Owusu from Jane Addams Middle School was also a Will County qualifier who competed and placed 8th. Congratulations, Edward. And Melina Bunn from Brooks Middle School was also a Will County qualifier. Congratulations, Melina. Congratulations to all of the VVSD Spelling Bee winners.
So I want to know what word got him hung up.
Good job.
Congratulations. Good job. Nice time. Mr. Schaefline, we have these guys are junior high students. Look how tall they are. Are you kidding me? Stop feeding them. Or feed them more so they're taller, even still. We need them in high school. 3rd place finish, junior high basketball, state qualifiers. I was a little disappointed because I had to hear it from my friends in Springfield who they lost to. but made us very proud. I know several of the boys on this team. If you would please.
It's my pleasure to introduce the Illinois Basketball Coaches Association Coach of the Year, Mr. Josh Gage, who will introduce the rest of the team.
Thank you very much for having us. It's the end to a fantastic year, yet again. So we've been blessed to be able to do this several times. This group is unique in the fact that they're not just fantastic basketball players, but academically they are the best and brightest team we've had. They enjoyed practice much more than a game, which is a pretty impressive thing for a whole bunch of 13-year-old boys to get along that well. I'll introduce you. They had a fantastic season. Coach Ploger is our 7th grade coach and has been with me for many, many years at this point. So thank you very much to him. Mark Bennett. Trey Mack. Jack Eakin. Mr. Falk. Nana Kente. Joseph Yesufu. Caprice Stewart. Dominic Kemak. And Jonathan Banks.
And I might add, they're all snappy dressers.
Congratulations, Coach.
I'm not sure how hard it is to get a bunch of 13-year-old guys in ties, but you've managed, Coach. Nice job. Thank you, gentlemen. I've had the pleasure of coaching 3 or 4 of these guys since like fifth grade, 5-year-old flag football. So watching these guys grow up, it just makes me feel really old. Next, we have, what do we have? State qualifiers? The cheerleaders, come on up. Well, they're already up.
Good evening, President Quigley, Vice President Gugis, Secretary Bull, members of the board, Dr. Mitchum, senior leadership, members of the audience, and people at home. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our head cheerleading coach, which is going to announce our cheerleaders, Miss Lindsay Banzer.
Good evening, everyone. As Mr. Kinder said, my name is Lindsay Banzer, and I'm the head cheerleading coach at Romeoville High School. I would first like to thank the board, Dr. Mitchum, Mr. Baduris, Mrs. Smith, Mrs. Jordan, and Mr. Kinder for supporting our team and our sport. With that being said, we had a great season, placing 18th out of 29 at the ICCA state competition that is held in Springfield. This is a dynamite team that we like to call the Tiny But Mighties. The reason for the nickname is that we are a team of 12 members in the large varsity division, where the vast majority of teams have 20 on the floor. However, this team is proof that with determination, hard work, and perseverance, it doesn't matter the size of your team in numbers, it matters how much each team member is invested in the sport in order to be successful. And these girls have time and time again shown their investment and dedication to this team, their school, and their community. The team members include Adrian Peralta, Lauren Beal, Mary Martino, Melissa Helfert, Jalen Mankins, Brittany Acavelli, Brittany Wooldridge, Emily Dennison, Rachel Richard, Jasmine Lawson, Amanda Rausch, and Rachel Gross. Thank you and congratulations, girls, on a job well done.
No, they all know how to do the photo thing. Look at them. Nice. Next, the high school wrestling qualifiers from BHS, I believe.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce our boys wrestling head coach, Mr. Dan Bolivant. Quick word about Dan. This was his first year taking over the program, and he experienced immediate success with the kids. And they achieved 7 sectional qualifiers and 2 conference champions, and he's here to recognize 2 extraordinary young student athletes. Mr. Dan Bolivant.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to introduce sophomore Elijah Bavaro as one of Bolingbrook High School's state qualifiers this year. In addition to becoming a state qualifier, this is his second year for receiving academic honors. He has earned a 3.5 cumulative GPA. Elijah's 126-pound weight class was deemed one of the most competitive by Illinois Mat Men. There was an incredible 35 wrestlers being ranked honorable mention on their website. In spite of wrestling in a highly competitive weight class, Elijah took first place at the Downers Grove South Invite, was a regional tournament champion, and took second place at the sectional tournament. He finished the year with a record of 31-10 and earned his way into the ranks of becoming a state qualifier as an underclassman. He was a team captain as just a sophomore, and we have great expectations for Elijah, both academically and athletically. Elijah Bavaro. Tonight, I'm equally proud to introduce senior Luis San Pedro as a state qualifier. He too received an award for academic honors and currently maintains a cumulative GPA of 3.7. Despite having battled through injuries, Luis earned a record of 25-11, was tournament champion at our regional, and won 2 overtime matches to win 3rd place at the sectional tournament. He was voted our most valuable wrestler this year. He was team captain. He was a leader for our team in every sense of the word. He set an example for his teammates through his work ethic, sacrifice, and the way he dealt with adversity. It has been a long-term goal for Luis to become a state qualifier, and as a coach, I could not be happier to see him achieve his goal. He is the definition of never quit, and the story of his high school wrestling career would be an inspiration to anyone. I know Luis's future will be a bright one, as long as he applies the lessons he has learned here at Bolingbrook High School. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a new banner that hangs in the wrestling room at Bolingbrook, and that banner reads Heart, Pride, and Honor. And these 2 gentlemen here definitely exemplify that, the definition for those words, and they've definitely helped pave the way for me for future wrestlers at Bolingbrook. Thank you.
Congratulations, Coach. Congratulations.
With the recognitions out of the way, oh, wait a minute, got one more. I forgot. Well, the student recognitions are out of the way. So parents who have students who would like to take your young scoins home to, no doubt, do extra homework that they probably have, this would probably be a good time to take off. But you're welcome to stay if you'd like. I forgot. Mr. Mitchum, if you would, please.
At this time, I'd like to ask Mary Worster to accompany me at the podium, please. If I had known their administration was going to be here, they could have done the honor.
She's got an entourage.
I'm going to go sit back
When
down.
you're the practitioner of the year, you got to have an entourage.
I would have been really sad. Good evening, Dr. Mitchum, senior leadership, members of the board, and community members. I'm Jean Bruno, the assistant principal at Jonas Salk Elementary School. With me, I have Michelle Remote, the building principal. It is our pleasure to introduce to you our Jonas Salk Elementary School psychologist, Mrs. Mary Worster. Mary came to Valley View School District at the start of the 2006-2007 school year as a school psychologist for both Brooks Middle School and Woodview Elementary School. She moved to Salk Elementary School in 2007, where she has spent the last 6 years. Mary holds a Bachelor of Science degree in psychology from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, a master's degree in school counseling from Loyola University Chicago, a specialist degree in school psychology from Illinois State University, and is currently pursuing a master's degree in educational leadership and administration from Lewis University. In addition, she is also a nationally certified school psychologist. Mary has demonstrated many leadership abilities at Jonas Salk, and her understanding of special education and response to intervention is superb. Mary has presented important information to our staff numerous times via faculty meetings, institute days, or grade level meetings on topics including special education law, response to intervention, and the Student Risk of Harm Protocol. In addition to assessing students as needed, Mary is a member of our Universal Leadership Team, Secondary Academic Leadership Team, Tertiary Academic Team, Building Intervention Team, Secondary and Tertiary Behavior Team, Nonviolent Physical Crisis Intervention Team, and our Anti-Bullying Team. Mary also manages our Check and Check Out and Check and Connect programs for students who require additional support. She's a team player and is always willing to help a staff member, a student, or a family in need. She has helped coordinate our Angel Tree program, which is designed to help families in need during the holiday season. She's also organized and taught at the Salk Pre-K Academy, which was designed to help preschoolers become better prepared to start their kindergarten year. In her free time, Ms. Worster enjoys spending time with her husband, Chris, and their 3 children, Colin, Grace, and Miles, who are ages 5, 2, and 1. At the annual she's assured us she's done. At the annual ISPA convention, which is the Illinois School Psychologists Association, which was held in Springfield on January 17th, Mary Worster was named the recipient of the Illinois School Psychologists Association's Ted Smith Practitioner of the Year Award. This award is given annually to the most outstanding ISPA member who uses talent and perseverance and makes significant contributions of time and energy in the practice of school psychology. It is my pleasure to recognize Mary Worster tonight, and thank you for all that you do. Congratulations, Mary.
Liaison reports. Any and all, please. Starting from my right.
The next academic committee meeting is March the 21st. We will be finalizing, hopefully, some changes to the report card. We'll also be reviewing some map data, some latest and greatest map data that's out there.
Anybody on my left? Apparently not. You already heard my rant about the legislator, so I won't go into legislative activities. There's a lot of bills that are affecting or will affect school districts throughout the state. We are monitoring those. Sometimes they get kicked to Mr. Gazafi, sometimes they get kicked to different staff, Mr. Mitchum, just to find out how they may affect our school district. But the money's the big thing. So Moving down the agenda, are there anybody from the audience, or is there anybody from the audience who wishes to address the board this evening? If you do, please keep your comments to 3 or 4 minutes. State your name and where you are from. Thank you.
President Quigley, Suzanne Hurdle from Romeoville. I'll be as quick as I can. I do have a lot of questions, but anyway, first thing I wanted to ask is, I read in our instruction, educational philosophy and objectives, it says the belief that we believe the participation of the family and community are a vital component of educational success for each student. I assume that means parents, and I am very interested in finding out why parents aren't taking the Illinois 5 Essentials survey. I appreciate the response I got from the principal at my student's school. However, when I see that Plainfield, Lockport, and Joliet Township are all including their parents, I think it's kind of ridiculous that we're not. I understand that it's not state law this year, that it probably will be next year, but one of the things it says in the community relations connection with community is that we gather community attitudes, promote a genuine spirit of cooperation. We talk about how much stakeholders and what stakeholders think matters. Here's a perfect opportunity for stakeholders to tell you what they think, and you denied us that, and I think it really stinks. Okay. And I went and saw what all of the questions were, and they're great questions, and I think that it would have been really great to be able to do that. Okay. Second, really quickly, I would like to request that you, as a board, we know that the state of Illinois is in terrible condition when it comes to finances. I just have to say, as a stakeholder, I'm tired of hearing the complaints about the money. We all know, but it's really hard to listen to you complain about not having money when money is constantly being shelled out. For example, $3.6 million on technology will be voted on at the March 25th meeting for more smart boards and other technology. There's a mention there about teachers getting professional development. I'd like to know how they're supposed to do that on top of everything else they're being asked to do, including perhaps doing it with fewer aides. Also, $93,000 for a hiring program. I find it hard to believe with the multitude of administrators that we have in the district, there's not somebody that couldn't find a way to do that for what we're already paying them. Last and not least, I am very, very, very concerned about the riffing. And I'm very tired of having to hear about these things through the grapevine, not through the media, not through a parent link call. Last year or the year before, we had the riffing of certified staff. Now we're looking at riffing of paraprofessionals, and my guess is the people and the students that this is most going to affect have no clue that this is even being addressed tonight, and I think that's terrible. As a parent, I think that's terrible that we're not hearing about it. I know I only have like 1 second probably left, but I just want you to see. These are my notes. This is my highlights and my notes. I don't just complain. I want to help. I want to be a part of solutions. I want to ask questions. 3 minutes isn't a heck of a lot of time. I know I can email people, but I felt I needed to be here tonight because I feel like this is sort of just like the RIFs of the other ones, only there was a heck of a lot more people for the RIFs of the certified. Parents, if you're listening, you need to know that this will affect your children. I don't know if it's going to affect them negatively or not, but it's about time parents in this district started showing up for these meetings and making their voices heard, because I'm tired of being the only one who sometimes seems like that, and I know you're all tired of it too, of seeing me, but I do care, and I want what's best, and I just, right now, and my son will kill me for saying this, but I got to be honest with you. My kids have only been in this district. I never thought I would ever consider private school, but the way our district is going at this point, I'm very close to looking at private school, and that makes me very sad. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Anyone else from the audience wish to address the board this evening? Please state your name and where you're from.
Hi, good evening, Dr. Mitchell. The board staff, it's a shame I've never been here before, but I made my appearance tonight because it's very important. I'm addressing the board because I had no other choice but to address you all. And wherever it goes, I don't know. But it's like a desperate move for me. I'm a taxpayer out here. I've been here 16 years. I'm from Bolingbrook. I was a proud parent out here in this village. When I watch the students get their spelling bees, I'm proud. When I see the team members can walk around and do what they can do to be basketball players, I was proud to see that. I came here very angry today, but to see this, it made me relax a little more. I have a little boy in a wheelchair. He's in special need. He has an IEP. It's not being addressed. I want to go homeless to get out of this village because I want him to be safe. He can't come to this school safe. He's not in school for 3 weeks. I've approached different people. He's not there. He's been injured 10 times in less than 3 months. I've addressed everyone. I've clamped the channels. I don't want to blame anyone, but I'm tired. And I don't know what else to do, so I'm addressing the board. I'm hoping and praying that you all can help me. And this has taken a lot of courage for me to do this today, but I'm doing it for him. And I've addressed and I've fought and I've did what I had to do, but the only person that's suffering is him. So I adopted this little boy. I don't want anyone to neglect him, and I don't want allow him to be neglected any longer. But I felt it's a cry from me today for him, for someone to step up, be bold enough to fight this, to say, okay, this little boy deserves to go to school. No child should be left behind. He wants to come to school, but he can't due to circumstances. I will not put blame on anyone, but I'm addressing and I'm pleading. Please allow him to come to school. He's not in school today, and he's been out for 3 weeks.
Can we talk offline? Can you stick around and we can talk afterwards?
Yes, sir.
I would love to talk to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Because I can tell you're upset, and I don't want you to be upset. Anyone else?
I am Amy Spatz. I am from Romeoville. I'm a parent and an employee. Like Pastor Suzanne, I am very concerned about the RIFs. I'm very concerned about the number that you're talking about doing. And I would say that probably the main reason I got up here tonight is because, like Pastor Suzanne, it makes me very sad also, but my husband and I have also been considering pursuing a private school for our child as well. And I think that that is important for the board to know too.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, moving down the agenda. Dr. Mitchum.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask the board to approve the student due process cases A and B as presented.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Action report number 11, high school summer school program.
Yes, good evening, sir. Tonight I bring for your approval Action Report 11.1, seeking approval for the high school summer school program for 2013. This includes the general high school program, the driver education program, and the Phoenix summer school program. There are no significant changes in programming this year. The location for the programming is at Romeoville High School for the general high school program and the driver education program. You will note that there are fee increases this year for both general education, Phoenix Summer School, and driver education program. This is, of course, due in efforts to help to lighten the burden in terms of financial constraints that we are facing. The increase of fees last year was increased to $150. This year it is increased to $175, and driver's education is increased to $250. This is still very comparable and in most cases less than our surrounding schools. Last year when we had a fee increase, it was the first fee increase since 2003, and since that time it had been at $120. So unfortunately it is a necessary measure to be able to keep these programs running. We have factored that the driver education program will be cost neutral through this fee increase, and we are going to be offering more seats so that more students can take driver's education during the summer if they're not able to take it during the school year. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you had. There are no significant changes to programming.
Thank you. Motion would be in order to approve.
So moved.
We have a motion?
Second.
We have a second. Is there any discussion from the board?
Yes, now you said it was going to be held at Romanville. I didn't hear anything about the
I'm sorry, the Phoenix program will begin immediately after school ends, and they will stay in Bolingbrook High School where they are housed. After that, it's a much shorter duration. They go longer throughout the day. They go pretty much all day till 4 o'clock. There's several reasons for this. One is just the facilities and the technology and the fact that it is housed in that location. So they will remain at Bolingbrook High School from beginning June 3rd, the day after graduation.
And so when does that end?
June 21st. It goes for 3 weeks, 2 sessions. There's an AM and a PM session. Students can sign up for both, and they will continue the coursework that they've been working on throughout the school year. Apologize for leaving that out.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Special education extended year.
Good evening, President Quigley, members of the board. I'm bringing tonight forward an action report at 11.2, seeking your approval for the Special Education Extended School Year Program, also known as ESY. This is an annual program that takes place during the summer. It services our special education students. Again, this is a limited portion of our special education population, and to be eligible, students must exhibit considerable regression of learned skills and inability to recoup in a reasonable period of time as determined by their individual educational plan. So again, this is standard procedure to bring this to the board for approval. I'm available if you have any questions for me tonight.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
Second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Mr. Grizafi?
No action report this evening.
Thank you. Ms. Hawks?
Thank you, President Quigley. This evening, we're seeking your approval on Action Report 13.1 as revised, Consolidated Action Report for Certified and Classified Personnel. This includes 20 items for certified personnel, 27 for classified, and 2 for administrative classified personnel.
Motion would be in order.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes.
Second action report this evening is 13.2, Resolution Number 1443, authorizing separation agreement and general release and waiver of liability.
So moved.
Motion and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes.
And my final action report, 13.3, we're seeking your approval this evening for Resolution Number 1444, authorizing execution of settlement agreement and general release.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Mr. Mitchum. Get a lot, don't you?
Yes, we do.
Okay, information report 14.1 is a facility usage agreement update. In April of 2010, the board had approved a comprehensive facility usage agreement that governed the usage of the district facilities. What you have before you this evening is an update that specifically enumerates the attached strikeouts and additions that in general include the following: updated insurance information, enumeration of required documents to submit with the application, a revised application form, clarifications of activities to be included in classes 1 and 2, clarification of community-based organizations in terms of definitions, inclusion of a Class 4 AA tier, which will allow a lower fee to be applied to certain community organizations that charge nominal fees to their participants that cover expenses only and do not generate profits, as well as an updated fee schedule that includes the addition of the Class 4 AA fees, as I've outlined, as well as the addition of an AV technician labor fees and reduction in the hourly rate for cleaning services necessitated by the reduction in our costs with our outsourced cleaning. There's a lot to review here. We've got the complete facility usage agreement attached, again with the additions outlined in red as well as the strikeouts. I don't know if you have any specific questions that I can attempt to answer, or Mr. Lopez, our Director of Facility Operations, is here with us this evening as well.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions on this? I've got some, but I'll ask you later because it's about the insurance stuff and why the change in the insurance, but that probably is a long-winded explanation.
We basically ran it through our carrier to make sure that we were adequately covered and asking for the right things, and so working with them back and forth, we made the necessary changes.
Okay. We don't want to penalize the community organizations that use that by having them have to pay a higher fee for insurance if we don't have to. So if we don't have incidents, then hopefully we can get a better rate. If we have incidents, then we have to pay a higher rate. So
in essence, this is a again an update evolving over 3 years of living with the facility use agreement that was vetted via a committee, and so again we're just trying to make it more manageable for our users, our end users, as well as our administration.
Thank you. Next, software.
The next is 14.2 is a request considering the purchase of a software asset management system for the purpose of tracking and managing the large number of software titles the district owns and utilizes. As you may well know, we have 6,800 computing devices scattered throughout all of our buildings and approximately 700 different software titles that we utilize. Currently, the licenses and installations of these software titles are tracked and managed manually. This methodology is both time-consuming and has a high propensity for error that an automated management system would alleviate. The manual approach does not provide any data to use for our long-range strategic planning, hardware changes, and operating system migration. Nor does a manual system provide data to ensure software version standardization across our locations. The rationale for wanting to purchase this bit of software is to identify whether additional licenses need to be purchased or whether licenses can be utilized elsewhere within the district. As I mentioned, 6,800 devices. We want to make sure that we're compliant with our licensing, but not over-compliant, meaning we purchase too many licenses. It could also be used to assess whether a district is utilizing the best licensing programs available for software titles that are employed. Last meeting, I believe we brought forth a different way of volume purchasing our Microsoft licensing. And so again, this is another tool that will help us in assessing whether, again, it is more advantageous to pursue a different licensing arrangement. It will ensure software version standardization, as I mentioned earlier. There should be a reduction in the soft cost of managing multiple versions of the same software title. Diversification includes the addition of non-Windows-based OS integrations, such as the Chrome OS, and migration to newer versions of Windows 7 and 8. The district can demonstrate software license compliance in the event of an audit and eliminate any potential costs with the legal risk associated with improper software deployment. The evaluation process consisted of evaluating 4 different products. At the time, it was narrowed. After such evaluation, it was narrowed down to 2, and each product was scored based upon a 32-point different criteria and cost comparisons. The product that successfully met most of the selection criteria was Express Software Manager by Express Metrics, and it is our intention to recommend to the school board the purchase of such licensing agreement and a first-year maintenance cost with them at our next meeting. Any questions?
Any questions about our software management? One of the reasons we're doing this is one of Mr. Gugis' pet peeves was when we had software licenses that excel, what was it, a couple hundred that weren't used? A couple thousand, 8,000, whatever. We had a lot more capacity for software licensing than were actually being used for one of the programs. So this will help manage that system and save us money, and also help you track the data of what's being used and how much and so on and so forth, correct?
That's absolutely correct. It's a long
Thank
time
you.
coming.
So that's an information report. Next information report, instructional technology.
On April 16th of 2012, the board had approved a 2-year technology upgrade plan to implement technology standard for pre-K through 5 classrooms that met the instructional needs established by our curricular leaders and ensured equitable access to technology resources by all district students. During the summer of 2012, phase 1 of this upgrade plan was completed in all of our kindergarten, 1st, and 5th grade classrooms across all of our elementaries and several pre-K classrooms. On February 21st of this year, members of the senior administration presented information to the academic committee pertaining to phases 2, 3, and 4 of the proposed technology upgrade plan for fiscal years 2014 and 2015. These proposed initiatives are in direct support of adopted and proposed curriculum continued expansion of 21st century learning tools within district classrooms and the implementation of a technology standard for all pre-K through 8 classrooms. Phase 2 involves our preschool and elementary schools, including the upgrading of approximately 150 classrooms to include document cameras, projectors, and smart boards. Phase 3 would expand that same equipment implementation to our middle schools, approximately 280 classrooms. And phase 4 includes the wireless local area network upgrade, leading to bring your own technology, expanding to 420 access points throughout the district. Included in the action or the information report is a proposed deployment timeline and cost estimation. We've also set aside some professional development funds, and I think it's important to mention that we are looking to lease this equipment over a 5-year period to minimize the cost impact. As was mentioned earlier, overall cost is $3.6 million. We will be doing this hopefully with in-house labor rather than outsourcing the work. We feel it will give us better quality control of the work, and it will save us quite a bit of money versus the cost of contracting out the work. I don't know if you have any specific questions in terms of the hardware or anything.
I've got a couple. So if we can break this down for everybody, this is basically to provide teachers with some new technology to use in their classroom that some of our teachers currently have, but some don't.
Correct.
So we're talking smart boards, wireless access, hopefully sound with those smart boards. And I can think back, one of our pillars tonight, I was in our classroom 3 years ago and I watched Ms. Luff use a smart board, and they were not very common in our district. And not only were the students engaged, but I can still remember that it was a lesson on volume and density from 3 years ago by just watching the engagement on the smart board. From talking to our teachers, it seems that children are very engaged when this technology is used. It also supports our current curriculum, if I'm
Specifically, My Math and the benchmark literacy curricular initiatives that have recently been implemented. And I think your comment, Rick, is spot on. My observations as I get into the classrooms, which is not as frequently as some of our other senior leaders, but teachers are taking attendance, they're taking lunch counts with these smart boards. I mean, they're doing ancillary things other than just curriculum that the kids, I think, really latch onto. And it's just awesome to see that kind of engagement, if you will, on things other than just instruction, for me anyway.
Right.
So,
I guess the other question I had is, I know that sometimes when teachers are moved around, I've heard stories of elementary teachers going from a room with a smart board to a room with a chalkboard, and how difficult that is for them. Now with this standard, will we be standardized across the district, and with very few exceptions not have this technology available? And I think in some of those cases where we won't, it's because, like I know, in one of the autism rooms, we can't have a smart board for some sensory issues for the best needs of students. But in general, will every elementary student, when they walk into a classroom, see a smart board and see this technology that their teacher will be able to use to support them?
yes, let me elaborate a little bit on the timelines. All elementary classrooms are scheduled to be have this same deployment, if you will, by September 1st of next school year. It's a very aggressive timeline. One of the things we learned from last year's deployment was we're trying to solicit as much feedback we can from our building leaders, who in turn are seeking that type of feedback from teachers. We do have a limited number of options available in terms of the installation, but we want to give them whatever choices we can in terms of installation, front or back of the classroom, where do you want the wall jack, so to speak. And so, again, trying to get as much teacher feedback as we can before we actually begin the work. But yes, indeed, September 1st, 2014, all elementary classrooms will have this gear available for instructional use by teachers. And then at that same time frame, September 1st of 2015, actually no, I take that back. May of 2014, we'll be trying to implement everything in the middle schools. And so for the start of the following school year, the 2014-15 school year, all middle schools will have the same access to technology.
Anything else? Anyone else with comments on the technology upgrade plan? We moved 14.5 to 14.4 and 14.4 to 14.5. So Ventures in Excellence.
Thank you, President Quigley. This evening, I'm bringing an information report to you regarding a new hiring selection tool for teachers. This tool will provide the district with additional information and tools to help identify, screen, and select applicants who are considered to be student-centered and highly exceptional as a teacher. Just to kind of give you some background on how Excellence, Ventures for Excellence works, each certified applicant, once they complete an application, will be required to complete an online questionnaire. This is a screener. And this identifies and predicts each applicant's professional work style and strengths through a series of 32 questions related to the field of education. The information, combined with other available information through their resume and their application, will aid us in determining whether or not to move the applicant to the next stage of the interview process. The next stage then would be a phone screening. And this phone screening is based on a select group of questions that relate to the characteristics of an excellent teacher, and it includes specific parameters for appropriate answers. Administrators who will be conducting these phone screens are required to go through a 4-day training session. This training session that they are required to go to will help them listen for evidence and excellence in individual applicant answers based on the attitudes, values, and behaviors of the applicant. If the applicant makes it through that process, they are then able to move to the next, which is a face-to-face building interview with the building team and principal. This process will just allow us to move forward with hiring certified staff that have the characteristics of an excellent teacher. Just so background information in vetting this program, I participated in the 4-day training a year and a half ago. I had multiple meetings with the company and their senior executive consultant. This was Mrs. Linda Keim. She was also a former teacher, principal, and human resource administrator before she retired and then went to work for HumanX, who is the parent company. I spoke with 2 human resources director in Illinois that had been using this process and this program for a number of years. In addition, we have a committee of building and district administrators. They have also called 3 other districts outside of, I think one is in Illinois down south, and then 2 others outside of Illinois, and received information from them. From those surveys, we found out that if this program is consistently implemented and with fidelity, it can be a tremendous asset in hiring and retaining great staff, as well as reducing turnover rate. This process takes a large portion of the subjectiveness out of the interviewing process at the early stages. Once you reach the face-to-face portion of the interview, the candidates should possess the following characteristics, which are research-based of those characteristics that an excellent teacher has. Positive attitude, a willing to invest in their students, they're committed, they're able to communicate, they're personable, compassionate, motivated to learn and teach, they can generate alternatives as needed in the classroom, they have the knowledge of what components are necessary for good lesson plan and design, and they can put that knowledge into action. In addition, representatives from the Ventures team came and met with our senior administrative team, and also then with the Committee of Building and District Administrators, who are working towards creating a cohesive hiring process across the district. Both of these teams were in agreement that Ventures would be very beneficial to our district, and hiring the kind of teachers that we are looking for. In addition, our Director for Bilingual Ed and Professional Development participated in a conference call with Dr. Bola, who is the Vice President and Senior Director of Research for this company. We wanted to ensure that these tools would work with all applicants, especially those who come from culturally diverse backgrounds, because that's something that we're really looking for. And there is, they did provide us with evidence that both the screener, phone screener, and the online questionnaire were piloted with an extensive group of professionals with a diverse cultural background, and through this process, they ensure that each question is culturally neutral. The pricing proposal is for a 3-year agreement. The questionnaire, online questionnaire, which is called the Teacher Style Profile Builder, there's an annual cost of $8,026. This money would come from our recruitment budget, which is budgeted every year. It would be no additional money to be taken out or cost for the district. The training for administrators, as we said, it's a 3-year plan, so that would be approximately 20 administrators a year. The cost is approximately $1,200 per administrator. A total of $26,000 a year. That would be taken out of their professional development monies, which has also already been budgeted into the budget for the next 3 years. And then they were also agreeing to give us a discount of 10% for a 3-year agreement. So really, this would kind of be cost neutral for us. The money's already been budgeted, and it is there. I'll be seeking your approval at the March 25th board meeting for this proposal, and if it is approved, the implementation process will occur in 4 phases. We would initially implement the Style Profile Builder, which is the online questionnaire, during April or May of 2013 this year. And then the hiring interview committee will continue to work on creating the best structure for implementing these tools in each of our buildings. That being said, the second phase will include the training of a third of our administrators this fall, probably October, November. And then the third and fourth phases would be the 3-year implementation of training our administrator over the next 2 years. Is there any questions I can answer for you?
Yes. I'm still not clear on this third and fourth phase.
Mm-hmm.
Is it an individual something different, or is just a part of the second phase when the third of the administrator is going to be trained in the fall of 2013?
Yes, you are correct. It is the same as the second phase. It's just we're doing it in shorter bunches, 20 at a time, or approximately that amount, till we get all of our administrators trained.
Executive Director Hawks, when we have an application out there, or an opening out there, excuse me, for like a general ed elementary teacher, how many applicants do we receive typically?
Easily, I would say between 600 and 700 as a general pool. Now, for specifically maybe one position, it's maybe closer to 300, but we do get a lot of applicants.
So roughly for every position that you have, there's 300 applicants.
For a lot of the teaching, and especially at elementary, yes. At your higher levels, it gets a little bit less, but.
Will this software help in managing that piece?
Yes, it will. In order to get through each phase, it will cut down on the number of applicants that are actually eligible to move to each phase.
My question would be that, is there something, I'm looking at all this data, and I'm sure I'm probably overlooking it, but is there something in here that says that after 4 years or 3 years or 5 years, those that we have hired are still with us based on the success of what they're doing?
That is some information that they were supposed to be trying to get to me. I talked with, as I said, a number of school districts, and 2 of them here in Illinois that I talked with were bigger school districts a little bit farther north, and they did not actually keep any raw data on that. That is something that I would really want to do in the next, over the next 3 years if this was approved, to see. But they're all saying that, yes, there are non-renewals. The number of non-renewals they have gone down consistently each year as they implemented this.
Thank you.
Yeah, if we do this, we measure everything. So we need to measure and assess its effectiveness if we decide to move forward.
Yes, definitely.
Any other questions or comments? Ms. Hawks?
Okay, action or information report 14.4. This is reduction in force. This is information for you this evening that we will need to implement a reduction in force, or we're recommending a reduction in force for the 2013-14 school year. Each year in January, February, we start looking at staffing for the upcoming school year. During that time, senior administration meets with each building administrator. We look at their needs for the 13-14 based on student enrollment numbers. We also look to see if there's any projected building changes or program changes that are going on that could affect this enrollment numbers. Based on the projected enrollment numbers and the low number of certified retirees, which is 13 this year, and that's a very, very low number for us, the district will need to implement a reduction in force also for certified staff. As you may or may not know, the Performance Evaluation Reform Act, also known as PARA, and Senate Bill 7, the legislation there has changed the way the school districts are required to do their reductions in force for certified staff. In the past, when determining which staff would be RIFT or reduction in force, it was based on what position they held, their certification, and then it was based on seniority. That is no longer true, effective this year for our school district and last year for many school districts. We are now looking at conducting reduction in force based on certification, performance evaluation ratings, and then seniority. At this time, I can't give you an exact number on the certified staff that we will need to reduce, but I can tell you that going through the staffing and looking at the sheets, and we still have 1 or 2 buildings that I'm getting additional information from, with those staff members that will become involuntary transfers because due to enrollment numbers again, the enrollment has shrunk, and so we need to move some changes around from grade levels. I have 9 staff members at this point that I do not have a place for, and that's based on the certification that they hold. Could be that they only hold one type of certification and their grade level and things like that. So I will know later this week. We're trying to finish up the information for the reduction in force and for the new guidelines by PARA, so I will know a little bit more later this week, but as of right now, there's 9 staff. So depending on how many I will need to release is all going to be based for that part on certification, how far back I need to go. But we no longer will be reducing by school years. We won't be reducing all first year, all second year, all third year. It's going to be based solely on the positions that we cannot fill. So if it's a PE position, and then it's going to be based on, again, the performance evaluation ratings and also then seniority. So I can tell you that the number is going to be very low for certified staff this year, but I don't have an exact number.
Ms. Hawks, can I jump in right there?
Sure.
Last year when we did the RIF, what was our net change in certified staff? Do we have more or less last year after we did the RIF and then after we rehired and restaffed?
And then recalled it back. We only had, I think, 2 or 3 that we did not call back.
And I think was our net count higher though?
Yes.
So we had more teachers. This year we have more teachers than we had the year prior.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to compound on that clarification, if I may. The verbiage reduction in force would indicate that we are actually reducing our teaching force, when in fact that's not necessarily the case. As Member Gujas indicated, last year we actually increased our teaching force because the reduction in force was due to programmatic changes. And as a result of the law and our contractual language, when you make programmatic changes that require the hiring of some staff and the reduction in force of other staff, we have to go through what we call the RIF process. But I'd like the public to know that when we use the word RIF or reduction in force, it does not necessarily mean that we are actually reducing our staff and our supports for our children. It just means that in many ways we're changing our programmatic offerings as a result of what our data reflects, or as a result of, again, specific program changes that are designed to positively impact student outcomes.
I think typically when parents hear this, they think about class size. So if we wanted to talk a little bit about our class size, my understanding, particularly K through 5, we're much lower than any of the surrounding districts. And,
that's correct.
And lower really 6 through 12 at that point, but definitely K through 5. I believe that our class size is
very, very low.
one of the lowest in the surrounding area.
That is correct, thank you. Also, just so that you know, the requirements by the legislation is that for certified staff, those people that are reduction in force or honorably dismissed, they do have recall rights if positions come open that they're certified to teach. So typically every year we don't know at this point if we're going to get resignations or how many resignations or in what area. But then as those become available, then we do call those people back that have been a reduction in force if they have the correct certification to offer them the position. Moving on to our classified staff, we have a couple of program changes that we would like to recommend to the board. And these program changes are based on what we feel is best for students, for student engagement, for student learning. The decisions that we are making are research-based decisions. It does not have anything to do with cost cutting or reductions to save money. But it's more program, as Dr. Mitchum said, it's program changes that we feel will really benefit our children. And both of those would affect both reading and supported educational instructional paraprofessionals. And so let me just give you a little bit about those program changes. In the past, the district has allocated every elementary building 2 reading teachers and 4 reading paraprofessionals. Also during allocations, each elementary principal had the autonomy to make the decision that they could have 1 reading teacher or 2 paraprofessionals. That was kind of their choice. Over the last couple years, they have been slowly making the change towards reading teachers based on what research has told us. To this year, pretty much the majority of our buildings had decided to move to the reading teachers or instead of the paraprofessionals. Our rationale for making the changes are based on the fact that our reading teachers would be trained and able to consistently offer targeted literacy support to our students and provide research-based interventions. This has a direct positive correlation with student growth. Based on the fall-winter map data and in some cases fall-spring map data from the prior year, as well as analysis of other data sets, these buildings that are using reading teachers in place of paraprofessionals are showing a greater rate of growth. Our local data also validates the research that shows that instruction given by a teacher who has a specific reading training, which is 24 or more hours in reading instruction, and the state approval or the state endorsement for reading, this positively impacts student achievement to a greater degree. Additional reasons for restructuring the reading program. Reading teachers are able to immediately respond to students' specific instructional needs. They provide appropriate supports not only for general ed students but also for our bilingual students, and they have the training and experience to provide strategies that are well thought out and coordinated. The change will also strengthen our district by providing qualified individuals who can support coaching and serving as professional development resources as we move towards meeting the demands of teaching at a more rigorous standard or the Common Core state standards. I'm sure you've heard a lot about those lately. Reading teachers are also qualified interventionists who can provide the research-based interventions which are required by law, the IDEA Law 2004, and through the RTI or Response to Intervention process for general ed students. They also play a critical leadership role in planning for and running data meetings, which paraprofessionals are unable to do. Currently, instructional time is taken away or is for students is lost from the teachers due to the time they have to spend training the paraprofessionals on a regular basis. Reading teachers also currently have less time available to monitor and disaggregate data and collaborate with the classroom teachers. Reading teachers can readily communicate with parents with ease via phone calls, parent-teacher conference, thus creating a strong home-school connection for our students, especially those most in need of academic support. It's going to be our recommendation to increase the number of reading teachers allocated for each elementary building and reduce the number of reading paraprofessionals to 0. This recommendation would create an increase of 16 reading teachers in the district and a reduction of 32 reading paraprofessionals. Our second program change that we would like to recommend is related to supported ed instructional paraprofessionals. With the implementation of the Common Core standards and in order to promote college and career readiness for students with disabilities, a greater emphasis on direct teaching is needed, as opposed to having the curriculum strictly adapted or modified for our students. Students with learning difficulties need to be explicitly taught strategies that allow them to reach the standards set forth by Common Core. Students with disabilities and who are at risk will need more direct instruction from specialized staff members that are trained in instructional strategies in order to close that achievement gap and to reach these rigorous standards. While our paraprofessionals provide many important supports and services, and we don't disclaim that at all, we feel that the allocations need to be shifted, though, in order to increase the number of staff members who possess the necessary training to provide direct instruction to our students. In summary, the special education programming needs to be outfitted with a structure that provides systematic scheduling of students to increase access to specialized staff for reteaching, interventions, and direct instruction, a development of a structure that facilitates collaborative partnerships between general ed and special ed teachers that is in alignment with research-based best practices, class sizes in alignment with the Illinois State Board of Education requirements, and then a structure that allows for a common plan time. We're recommending option A, which includes a decrease of 81 paraprofessionals, but includes also an increase of 40 certified special ed teachers. I just want to reiterate again, these program changes are not cost-cutting or for reduction to save money. Rather, they are based on what is best for students and based on research-based best practices. So at the March 25th board meeting, I'll be seeking your approval for a reduction in force for certified staff, reading and supported instructional paraprofessionals. Also, just the current numbers that I have right now, and don't hold me to these, but these are probably a pretty close estimate, is that there would be 140 paraprofessionals who would be honorably dismissed or reduction in force. Out of those 140, there would be approximately 29 or 30 that would be recalled back into positions. Any questions?
Yes, the numbers. Said 140, then I heard 81, then I heard 30 called back. I'm missing the count of how this is going together.
The 40 and 80 that you heard, that's 81 aides, special ed aides, that we would be reducing, but we would be adding back 40 certified teachers.
Okay, now what's 140?
That's the actual number of aides that we will be riffing, or a reduction in force. That includes the reading aides and special ed aides.
Okay, so the total number is 140, and you anticipate calling back 29 or 30?
Yes.
So it's something like 110.
Right, if you take the 32 reading aides that we would be doing a reduction in force, and then the 81 special ed aides that we would be reducing, that comes up to, I think, 113. And then if you take the 140 minus the 29 that we would be recalling, you're at 111, 113 again.
Okay.
I know you said it was best research practice, but I also thought we had our own data right now. I don't know, maybe we have somebody here that can speak to that, but I believe we have our own data right now that says that doing this is more beneficial for the students, that particularly students with IEPs or students that need these resources, that having an additional reading teacher as opposed to a aide has benefited those students greatly. Am I correct on that?
Yes,
that's
I think
correct, Member Gugis. A couple commitments we made, this administration made, was that one, we would make decisions that were student-centered, and that we truly would become a student-centered organization by making decisions that serve the best interests of our children first. And sometimes that commitment is troublesome, and we understand that. Second, we, as a unit district, one of the unique things about a unit district is it offers us the capacity to look at our data, whether it be qualitative or quantitative, for 21 buildings, kindergarten through 12th grade. I don't believe that we've done a very good job of looking at our data and making decisions based on our local assessment data, as well as our normed data, in driving best practices in our district. And so, yes, we do have data, and again, as the superintendent, I always will accept responsibility for ultimately approving or denying recommendations to senior leadership. But it should be known that information sharing is a two-way street. It's a two-way street between building administration and senior leadership. And so when the building administration comes to us during these allocation meetings, they will make recommendations to us based on their building data that would indicate the need for a change or indicate there being no need for the change. Overwhelmingly, our building principals recommended that the need to move towards reading teachers in lieu of reading aids based on what their data was indicating as it applies to achievement when looking at the two models. And so as we looked at each of our buildings and looked at the achievement data specific to reading, it was clear to the building principals as well as senior leadership that the model that used teachers in lieu of aides had a significant impact on student outcomes. And that is the purpose for the recommendation to the board and no other purpose. We are finally have a toehold on looking at our data and being able to make informed decisions about our delivery systems, not just as it applies to aides, but it applies to how we group our children, how we flexibly group our children, how we assess our children, how we monitor our children, because there are some very great things going on at the grassroots level in this district that were generated by teachers that have proven to have significant results. And as a senior leadership team, if we do not look at that data both qualitatively and quantitatively and make informed decisions for our building principals and our teachers to help drive improvement, then we'd be remiss in our duties. And that change, particularly systemic change, is very, very difficult. There has never been a process in which there's been systemic change where there has not been a difficulty and gnashing of teeth, so to speak, and we are in the process of that. However, at the conclusion of this change process, we expect that this board will hold this administration accountable for significant improvement in our student outcomes. On the one hand, we could make no change, and we've heard from the community from many levels to the degree that Valley View doesn't measure up to neighboring districts. Somehow we're subpar to our surrounding districts, and the need for change has been identified. Yet when these changes are made, and they are significant, and they are uncomfortable, and they impact people, we then hear of the trepidation as a result of that change. And so it is not easy. They are not made in a vacuum. They are not made without feelings for the people who they impact. But again, our commitment to our community and to this board who represents our community is that we will make decisions based on what we understand to serve the best interests of our kids. And we will use our data, our information, to drive those decisions.
Dr. Mitchell? Go ahead.
So how much data do we have, and is that data available for the community to see?
Yes, we do have that data. How we intend to communicate that data, we are still grappling with, because again, at the same time, it's not our intention to pit school against school. It's not our intention to indicate, this school is better than that school. And again, the data is complicated to some extent. We can give a very simplified version of that data. And if we do, when we do communicate this data, we will communicate it in a way that will recognize that there are particular schools, without necessarily naming them, but just using, the processes within those schools to show that the schools that are using a particular delivery system or delivery model that is consistent with the changes we are recommending are faring better than the schools that have chosen to use an alternative discipline model that requires changing.
So let me just clarify that, because I'm lost a little bit. we have data out there that says very clearly that having a reading teacher opposed to 2 reading specialists, or 2 reading aides, excuse me, is a better way to go for our students. We have this data out there very clearly, and it is a reflection of a choice that building administrations have made over the course of time. So currently that data is not being shared. It has not been shared as of yet because there's some trepidation about what that says about this school versus this school, is roughly what I'm hearing. I think we need to find a way to share that data, and I think that we have to own the fact that at times certain things have worked better at certain schools than they've worked at other schools, and that is difficult. You know, but that's the way it is. I cannot shy away from, for the sake of feelings, that, you know, the data is what it is. You know, I look at our Illinois school report card like everybody else, and the data is what it is. And I could give excuses, but it is what it is. So I would hope that we could bring that out, and you know, speaking for myself, I don't know how much we need to hide the names of the schools that it didn't work at. If it didn't work, it didn't work, and this is what we're doing to fix it. You know, and we got to own that sometimes. And as you said earlier, that's difficult, and people have struggles with that. And I understand that these things are complex, and there's other pieces that affect that data that may not be readily available on the surface. But that's your job, to deal with the details and figure that out, and the folks over here to figure that out. But I think for our community, we need to put this out, and because I'm pretty sure the data's pretty clear too, I believe. Just my thoughts.
Duly noted, Member Gurgis.
Yeah. And I would suggest you do it before the next board meeting when we act on this.
Duly noted, Member Curran.
Anyone else with any comments on this? Thank you. Moving down the agenda for this evening, Mr. Alpern, Legal Services Report.
No report this evening, thank you.
AFT Report. Ms. Sutherland, if you would please. Mr. Pascavage, don't try to steal our microphone. Thank you.
You don't rip my microphone.
He did establish the feedback problem, though. Thank you.
Good evening. I just wanted to make some comments about the recommendation to reduce the number of parapros. I understand that you're looking at data, but also sometimes what appears to be on paper is not always in practice. So I'm really strongly urging that you do look over the information and it's given to you in a timely manner, because it is displacing people. They're losing their livelihood, and so that's what we're very concerned about. Although we have to say that, you know, it's always important for the children. The children come first, and we do want to make sure that we give the best education we can. One of the things we haven't talked about also is the support staff, or the support ed parapros, and the program changes that might be going on with that. And when you're in a classroom, and you know, having certified staff there, of course, is very important, but you only have so many bodies. And when you're in a classroom, as I have been with Gen Ed, that, you know, there's a time that you're scheduling people in to help that child, but that child is with you the whole entire 5 to 6 hours. And sometimes their needs are there when there's not somebody to help support that child. So in considering certain models or program changes, I also hope that you will look at the fact is that even though having a certified staff in a program or in a reading program is very important, but also you need other bodies there that have been trained and should be trained to work with the children as well. So my hope is that you do look at this very carefully and consider everything that's put before you, and to make a decision that will be the best for everyone. So thank you.
Thank you. Any comments by the Valley View Council? No report. And Valley View Office Personnel Council? No report. Thank you. Any old business before the board this evening? Any new business before the board this evening? Any questions from the public on actions we have taken this evening? Please step forth if you have a question on the action we've taken tonight. State your name and where you're from.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Roland Warner from Romeoville. Dr. Mitchell, my son actually went to your wife's school, Hermanson.
Can you speak into the microphone? Thank you.
Hermanson. I mean, I'd hear a lot about decisions and you know, research and numbers. It'll be very interesting if, I don't know if you guys have considered the parent's position in a lot of what you're talking about, right? Because for some of us, I think it's important that our children, we participate in some of those decision making. And when these decisions are made, none of us, for me personally, I don't think we have a path to how do we react to those decisions for our children's specific needs, right? My son, actually, the transition exercise that took place from Hermanson to A.V. Martinez, I don't think would have happened if we didn't have the type of staff that were participating in that exercise. It's a very difficult one for them. Me personally, I don't really get in front of folks to sort of talk about these things, but I think when you're making these decisions, please consider the parent in these, both from a reading perspective and from the perspective of supported ed. I think it's important. These children form bonds with some of the people you're going to rift. They come home to us and say, where is Mrs. X? And we have to explain to them, or we have to go back and find out through grapevine or whatever. These things are never communicated to us. And I think that from that perspective, I don't see the parent in any of these decisions you're making. And I don't know if we have a voice, or if the alternative is we take our kids to private school, which will be difficult. But we got to understand that the education of our children is, to me, is a three-way street. There are the educators making decisions, there are the kids, and then there's also the parents. So as we make these decisions, formulate some sort of avenue for us to get into the mix and be more active in what your decision you're making. I know it'll be difficult to go to every kid. I think it's important that there's an avenue for us to not necessarily rebut these decisions, but participate in some of these decisions and become a more effective group in solving some of these problems. I think it's very important. I haven't heard any avenue for any parent to participate in any of the decisions you guys are making, but you've made quite a few today. You've voted on programs, spending money, and all that type of stuff, which is fine. But when you get to the point where you're making some crucial decisions, some of us have sat here for hours trying to understand these rifts, and it's important. I think there's a lady that stood up here and spoke to them. It's important for us because you're breaking relationships with our children when you make these decisions. And we have to then be the one to explain to them what you're doing and how it fits in their education going forward. So we got to be involved with that.
Thank you, sir. Just a couple things I'm going to let Dr. Mitchell say. One, I can't ever shake my own responsibility as a parent. There's 5 of us up here right now currently that have kids in the school district as we speak. Some in regular ed, some in special ed, some with 504 plans, some without. So I don't ever want that piece to be missed. There's also several groups within the district that we can speak offline or now that you can get involved in that have a voice. In particular, in special education, there's several groups, and even recently a new one driven by parents that just got started, and they have a Facebook page. I can't think of it's like Valley View Special Education Facebook, and they meet here in Romeoville at White Oak Library. There's also Special Education Resource Night that at Lukanzik, which we had a really good member Campbell was there. And they had a question and answer thing with administrators to find out answers to some of these questions that you're talking about. We have several committees that are built primarily with parents. So, but that being said, if there's still ways that you can think of for us to reach out, because what's really what's hard sometimes is I hear parents going, "We didn't hear anything," and it's like we Facebooked it, we tweeted it, we sent it out this way, we did Edline, and we just don't, we put it in a newspaper, we just don't find the ways. It still doesn't seem like we're reaching everybody. People are constantly telling me they're not heard, and they didn't know that we were doing it. So if there's ways that you have that we can do that better, that would be excellent, and I know Dr. Mitchell wants to address some of your concerns too.
You mirrored my comments as well. We also have academic committee. We have committees that are run by the board as well that parents sit on. We have those discussions during those committees. I think this district, in fact, I know this district in comparison to surrounding districts, our community outreach efforts are significant. I go out to the community 10, 15, 20 times a year to the schools, to the park districts, to the churches, again, to talk about our quote-unquote new view and our processes and our procedures for which to drive this change. And this venue in and of itself is a way in which to hear you, because the decision will not be made for 2 more weeks. And so these are just information items that we present to the public as a means of communicating with the parents and the board what our intentions are. But until the board, votes on it within 2 weeks, and they've given us our marching orders in terms of what they expect from us before they would even consider approving this, it's just another way in which we try to reach out to parents as well.
And the key here is that this RIF exercise has happened before. What are some of the statistics around how successful it was in the past? This is not the first years after. She mentioned that over a period of time they RIF'd a number of folks last year or whatever, and then they had to bring some people back. When you go through that exercise, what are some of the statistics around whether it was effective or not, right? Sure. And helping us understand some of those things.
Yeah, and we do present those statistics at our board meetings as well as information items. We have some significant statistics surrounding, for example, last year, the RIF was surrounding our Odyssey program and the need to make programmatic changes. Well, our preliminary data, and then again, I'm saying we have a toehold on our data. You need at least 3 years of data to be able to call it longitudinal. Right. We have a couple years of data that indicate that most of the things that we've enacted now are having the desired effect on student achievement and student outcomes. And it's not just academic outcomes, it's social, emotional outcomes as well.
Absolutely.
And I also want to touch, I sense that your child has an IEP?
Yeah, he does.
Okay. Concerning these RIFs and the supports for our children with IEPs, we can't get beyond the law, IDEA.
Okay. Help me understand that. Is all I'm saying.
Right, and so
that's all I'm saying.
When we have our annual review for your child,
absolutely.
and during that process we determine what supports are required for your child. If a support requires that we have a one-on-one aid or an instructional aid, we can't get around that by denying that support for you. Okay. So if the team, and again, you are part of that team. Absolutely. Absolutely. If that team indicates that, hey, this child needs a one-on-one aid, well, we're not going to, by law, we have to provide that. And that's a mandate that we have to fund. And so, particularly with special education students, everything that we do up here is null and void when it comes to the supports that are required for our special education students. As defined by their individual education program.
It'll be interesting to see how what you just described fits in what she's trying to do.
Right. That's a good.
Right? It'll be interesting to see that.
So I think always the best communication vehicle for you will be with the teacher, with the assistant principal, with the principal. But you're here now.
Right.
So we want to address that with you. There's some people you should probably talk to after the meeting. Ms. Ekstrom, can you raise your hand for him? You should probably talk to her after the meeting, but you're here now, so we want to make sure you get that addressed, just like this parent over here. But always that level is going to, because all of us there's 18,000 kids in the district, and I can't speak to what happens in an individual classroom. Besides, Ms. Luff teaches a mean density course. You should see it. But besides that, I can't speak to what happens in every classroom. Neither can these folks. Right. So the lower level there, but you're here. We appreciate you being here, and so we want to make sure that you get the answers to your questions and the piece that we never take for granted. What you're saying represents a whole bunch of other people that aren't here.
And that's my point. There's got to be a forum for the parent in this exercise.
And I would invite you to join the special needs resource. And then on that note, I would like also Dr. Mitchum, he did some acronyms on me, IDEA, so you need to explain that.
Individual with Disabilities Education Act. Individual with Disabilities Education Act.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving down the agenda, do we have any announcements?
I got a couple. One, I thought it's more of a question. I thought Ms. Hurdle brought up a good question about the survey. So if the administration could get back to us on how parents didn't get surveyed at a later point, I would appreciate that. On another note, it is, spring musical playtime at the high schools. Hold on, I want to get it right. RHS has Meet Me in St. Louis. It is March 15th through the 17th, and it's also on March 22nd and 23rd. The Friday, Saturday shows are at 7 p.m. The Sunday performance is at 3 p.m. And BHS has What's Upon a Mattress, and that will be this weekend, March the 14th, 15th, and 16th at the BHS Auditorium at 7 p.m. You got to go to showticket4u.com to get tickets at BHS. They're getting fancy over there at BHS. At RHS, I think you can show up at the door and get you some tickets.
It's Showtix. It's Showtix.
Showtix.
T-I-X.
I got it. It's showtix4u.com. So it's SHOWTIX4U, the number 4, u.com. RHS, show up. They got you.
Is that U-Y-O-U or U as in the letter U?
It's the letter. Good call. You know what? Can we just? It's on the website. I don't know exactly. There you are.
Come on, get up here, Shereen.
There she is.
You got to talk on the microphone, not in the back of the room.
Speaking of, here comes the director. No, what are you doing this year?
Shireen Bazati from BHS. BHS takes money at the door.
Oh, okay.
We'll gladly take cash. I am working concessions. I take cash there too. So come out. Thank you so much, Mr. Gugis. I appreciate that.
Any other announcements by board members? There are a lot of charity events going on in our area. This weekend coming up, the Lions Club of Bolingbrook has a St. Patrick's party at the Levy Center. As you know, the Lions Club's mission in the world was to aid those who need vision and hearing aid things. They can always use support. I think if you get on the BolingbrookLionsClub.com, you can find information on that. There's just all kinds of things going on around here. So get on the local web pages and what have you and see what charity events that are going on that you can support. There was a 3-on-3 basketball tournament in the weekend before, a chili cook-off. I got jobbed, just for the record. But they had a very large turnout that helped H2O in their 3-on-3 basketball turnout. So there's a lot of things going on in the district, a lot of things going on around here. Get out there and support those efforts for the charity events and for our schools. Thank you all for it was a very long meeting compared to the one we had last time. But unfortunately, the BHS girls did not make it to state this year, and the team that they got beat by in overtime again did not win state either. So, yep. So we don't feel so bad about it, but those girls are going to be good academically and athletically as they have been in the past. And I think one of the things that we saw tonight, and I want this to pervade throughout the entire district, there's a bunch of young guys up here that were in ties, and they're all, good students. There was a couple of young men up here who are wrestlers who are excellent students. This board, 3 years ago, we changed the level of participation for all, not just sports, but for all extracurricular participation, because you're students first and athletes and chess club and everything else second. And we've raised the bar for the kids, and the kids have stepped up. We have very, 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 very few children who can't participate due to their grades. If you want to be a football player, you got to make the grades. If you want to be on whatever it is, you got to make the grades. And I think that's a tribute to the board, and I think it was, there were some of us who kind of said, oh boys, we're going to get a lot of feedback on this. You know what, we didn't. You know why? Because you guys, parents in particular, said we want our kids to be school first, athletics and extracurriculars second. So I want to thank the community for supporting that decision, and we're seeing the results of it. Last year, the BHS girls sent 9 girls to Division I schools for basketball scholarships. It's that simple. And they didn't get there because they played basketball. They got there because of academics. There's a couple who got there because of both, but by and large, it's the academics that are getting our kids into college, not the athletics. So, and we have a young man who went down to Florida, who's a starter as a freshman, who is on the national freshman. He's like a honors, whatever they call it at the NCAA, All-American, academic All-American, and a football All-American as a freshman. So those are the types of things that are going on in the district. And it's not just sports, it's all of the other programs too. So thank you all. Have a great evening. Motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Ayes have it. Thank you. Have a great evening. Drive safe.
Thanks.